The morning sun rose over Hanil Colony like it did every other day. The sky was clear and blue. Birds sang in the trees near the river. Children ran through the streets, laughing and playing before school started. It was a peaceful place, far from the busy cities of Earth. The colony had been here for 50 years, built by the first settlers who wanted a quiet life on this distant planet. Yuna was 8 years old. She had long black hair that her mother tied into 2 braids every morning. Her eyes were bright and curious, always looking at the world with wonder. She lived in a small house near the edge of the village with her parents. Her father, Taiho, was a farmer who grew vegetables in the fields behind their home. Her mother, Hana, was a teacher at the village school. That morning, Yuna sat at the kitchen table eating her breakfast. Rice and soup, the same as always. Her mother stood by the window looking outside with a small smile on her face. "The weather is so nice today," Hana said. "Maybe we can have a picnic after school." Yuna's eyes lit up. "Really? Can we go to the river?" "Of course," her mother said. "Your father can come too, after he finishes his work." Taiho walked into the kitchen, wiping his hands on a towel. He had been working in the garden since early morning. His face was tired, but happy. "A picnic sounds wonderful," he said. "I will bring some fresh tomatoes from the garden." Yuna smiled and finished her breakfast quickly. She grabbed her school bag and ran to the door. "I will be back soon," she called out. "Be careful," her mother shouted after her. The village was small, with only about 200 people living there. Everyone knew each other. The streets were made of dirt, and the houses were simple but comfortable. There was one school, one store, and one medical center. It was not a rich place, but the people were happy. They had clean air, fresh water, and good food. What more could anyone want? Yuna walked to school with her best friend, Minji. Minji was the same age as Yuna, with short hair and a loud voice. She talked about everything and nothing, her words flowing like a river that never stopped. "Did you hear?" Minji said. "Old man Wu Jin saw strange lights in the sky last night. He said they were moving very fast, faster than any ship he had ever seen." Yuna looked up at the sky. It was empty now, just blue and clouds. "Maybe he was dreaming," she said. "Maybe," Minji agreed. "But he seemed really scared. My mom said he is getting old and his eyes are not so good anymore." They reached the school and went inside. The day went on as normal. They learned about math and science and history. They ate lunch in the schoolyard. They played games during break time. Everything was the same as always. But then, in the afternoon, everything changed. It started with a sound, a deep, low sound that came from the sky. It was like thunder, but louder and longer. The windows of the school shook. The children stopped playing and looked up. There were ships in the sky, not human ships. These were different. They were black and sharp, shaped like knives cutting through the clouds. There were dozens of them, maybe hundreds. They moved slowly at first, then faster, coming down toward the village. The teacher, a kind old woman named Yunji, ran outside. Her face was white with fear. "Everyone inside!" she screamed. "Get inside now!" But it was too late. The first blast hit the center of the village. A bright light, brighter than the sun, followed by a wave of heat and sound. The ground shook so hard that Yuna fell down. When she looked up, she saw fire everywhere. Buildings were burning. People were running and screaming. "Yuna!" Minji grabbed her hand. "We have to run!" They ran together, not knowing where to go. The sky was filled with fire now. The alien ships were shooting at everything. Houses exploded. Trees burned. The air was thick with smoke and the smell of something terrible. Yuna's mind went to one place. Home. She had to get home. Her parents were there. They would know what to do. They would keep her safe. She let go of Minji's hand and ran toward her house. She could hear Minji calling her name, but she did not stop. She ran faster than she had ever run before. Her lungs burned, her legs hurt, but she did not stop. When she reached her street, her heart stopped. Her house was gone. Where it had stood just hours ago, there was now only fire and broken pieces of wood. The garden her father loved so much was black and burned. The kitchen window where her mother had stood that morning was shattered. "Mom!" Una screamed. "Dad!" She ran toward the fire, but the heat pushed her back. She fell to her knees in the dirt, tears streaming down her face. She screamed again and again, but no one answered. No one came. The alien ships continued their attack. More blasts hit the village. More screams filled the air. Una did not move. She could not move. Her whole world had just disappeared in fire and smoke. Time passed. She did not know how much. The sounds of the attack grew quieter. The ships moved away, searching for other targets. The fires continued to burn, but they were smaller now. Most of the village was already gone. Una finally stood up. Her legs were shaking. Her face was covered in tears and dirt. She looked around at what remained of her home, her village, her life. Everything was destroyed. Everyone was gone. She started walking. She did not know where she was going. She just walked, stepping over broken pieces of buildings, past bodies she did not want to look at. She walked until she found a small space between two fallen walls. It was dark and hidden. She crawled inside and made herself as small as possible. She did not cry anymore. She had no more tears left. She just sat there in the darkness, alone and afraid, waiting for something. She did not know what. Maybe death, maybe rescue, maybe nothing at all. The night came. The fires died down slowly. The alien ships did not return. The village was silent now, a graveyard of ash and memories. Somewhere in the distance, something moved in the ground. Something old, something ancient, something that had been sleeping for a very long time, and it was waking up. Deep beneath the surface of the planet, far below the burned village and the dead trees, there was a cave. It was not a normal cave. It was enormous, bigger than any building humans had ever made. The walls were made of crystal that glowed with a soft blue light. The air was warm and still. Nothing had moved in this place for thousands of years. In the center of the cave, there was a creature. She was curled up like a sleeping cat, but she was not a cat. She was a dragon. Her body was covered in feathers, not scales. The feathers were silver and white, shining like moonlight even in the darkness. Her wings were folded against her sides, each one large enough to cover an entire village. Her head rested on her front legs, eyes closed, breathing slow and deep. Her name was Sora. She was older than the mountains above her. She had been alive when the first stars formed in this part of the galaxy. She had watched planets being born and dying. She had seen species rise and fall, empires grow and crumble. She was ancient beyond measure, a being of power that most creatures could not even imagine. Sora had come to this planet long ago, when it was still young and empty. She had found the cave and decided to rest, not sleep exactly, but something deeper, a state between life and death, between dreaming and waking. She had no reason to be awake. The universe was large, but it was mostly the same everywhere. War, peace, life, death. The same stories played out again and again. She was tired of watching. So she slept. Years passed, centuries, millennia. Above her, the planet changed. Plants grew, animals evolved. And then, one day, humans arrived. They built their ships and crossed the stars, looking for new homes. They found this planet and called it beautiful. They built villages and farms. They lived their small lives, never knowing what slept beneath their feet. Sora did not notice them at first. Humans were so small, so short-lived. Their entire civilization was like a single breath to her. They were born. They lived. They died, all in the blink of an eye. Why would she care about such tiny creatures? But something was different about humans. Even in her deep sleep, Sora could feel it. There was a fire in them, a spark that other species did not have. They were weak and fragile, yes. They could not fly or breathe fire. They had no claws or fangs. But they had something else, something powerful. They had hope. They had determination. They had the ability to look at an impossible situation and say, "I will try anyway." Sora had seen many species in her long life, but none of them burned as bright as humans did. Still, she did not wake. It was not her place to interfere. Let them live their lives. Let them fight their wars. Let them learn their own lessons. She was too old and too tired to care about the problems of such young creatures. Then the attack came. Sora felt it in her sleep. The first blast hit the ground above her, and the vibration traveled down through miles of rock and dirt until it reached her cave. Her eyes opened for the first time in 10,000 years. More blasts came, more vibrations. The crystal walls of her cave flickered. Dust fell from the ceiling. Something was very wrong. Sora lifted her head. Her ancient eyes, gold and deep as oceans, looked toward the surface. She could feel it now. Pain, fear, death. The emotions poured down through the earth like rain, and she drank them in. The humans were dying. She stood up slowly, her massive body unfolding like a flower opening to the sun. Her feathers rustled, shaking off the dust of ages. Her wings stretched out, filling the cave with their size. She took a deep breath, and the air around her began to glow with power. She should not interfere. That was the rule she had made for herself long ago. Species lived and died all the time. It was the way of the universe. If she saved everyone, then no one would learn, no one would grow. Death was a teacher, and she had no right to stop its lessons. But then she felt something else, something that made her stop. A child, a single human child, alone in the ruins above. The child was not dead, not yet. She was hiding, small and afraid, her heart beating fast like a trapped bird. She was scared, but she was not broken. Even now, surrounded by death, the child held on to something, a tiny flame of hope, refusing to go out. Sora had felt many things in her long life. She had felt the birth of stars and the death of galaxies. She had felt the rise and fall of countless empires. But she had never felt anything quite like this. This small, stubborn hope in the middle of so much darkness. It was beautiful. Sora made her decision. She began to move toward the surface. The journey was not fast. Even for a being like her, moving through miles of solid rock took time. She did not fly. She did not break through. She simply moved, her body passing through the earth like a ghost through a wall. The stone did not stop her. Nothing could stop her if she did not want to be stopped. As she rose, she felt more of what was happening above. The attack was over now. The alien ships had moved on, searching for other targets. The village was destroyed. Most of the humans were dead. Only a few remained, scattered and hiding, too shocked to do anything but wait. And the child. The child was still there, still hiding, still holding on to that tiny flame of hope. Sora moved faster. She reached the surface as the sun was setting. The sky was red and orange, painted by the fires that still burned across the land. Smoke covered everything, making the air thick and hard to breathe. The ground was black with ash. What had been a peaceful village was now a graveyard. Sora rose from the earth like a mountain emerging from the sea. Her feathers caught the dying light of the sun, turning from silver to gold. Her wings spread wide, blocking out the sky. Her eyes looked down at the destruction, and for the first time in thousands of years, she felt something close to anger. She had seen wars before. She had seen cruelty and violence and death. But there was something especially cruel about attacking a place like this. A small village, farmers and teachers and children, people who had done nothing wrong, who just wanted to live their quiet lives. The attackers were gone now, but Sora remembered their ships. She remembered their weapons. She would not forget. But first, she had something more important to do. She lowered her head and began to search. Her senses spread out across the ruined village, feeling for life among the death. She found a few survivors, hiding in basements and under fallen buildings. She would help them later. But first, she needed to find the child. There, in a small space between two collapsed walls, a tiny human curled up in the darkness. Alive. Afraid, but still burning with that stubborn little flame. Sora moved toward her. The ground shook with each step she took. Her massive feet left deep prints in the ash. Her feathers brushed against the ruins of buildings, pushing them aside like leaves in the wind. She was so large that the child's hiding place was like a mouse hole to her. She stopped in front of it and lowered her head until her great golden eye was level with the opening. She could see the child now, small and dirty and trembling. The child looked back at her, eyes wide with fear and wonder. Sora did not speak, not with words. Instead, she sent a feeling, a warmth that wrapped around the child like a blanket. Safety, protection. I am here. You are not alone. The child did not run. She did not scream. She just looked at the ancient dragon with her young human eyes and waited to see what would happen next. Yuna stared at the enormous eye in front of her. It was gold, like liquid metal, and bigger than her whole body. She could see herself reflected in it, small and dirty and afraid. Behind the eye was a face covered in silver feathers, each one longer than she was tall, and behind the face was a body so large that it blocked out the entire sky. She should have been terrified. She should have screamed and run away, but she did not. Something in that golden eye was not scary. It was warm. It was kind. It reminded her of the way her mother used to look at her when she was sick, full of love and concern. "Please help," Yuna whispered. The words came out before she could stop them. Her voice was small and broken, barely louder than a breath. The creature did not move. Its great eye continued to watch her. Then, slowly, it closed and opened again. A blink. And with that blink, Yuna felt something, a feeling that was not her own. It wrapped around her like a warm blanket on a cold night. Safety, the feeling said. I will keep you safe. Yuna did not understand how she knew what the feeling meant. She just did. It was like the creature was speaking to her, but not with words, with emotions, with thoughts. She crawled out of her hiding place slowly, her small body shaking with each movement. She stood up on weak legs and looked at the creature properly for the first time. It was beautiful. That was the only word she could think of. Beautiful and terrifying and wonderful all at the same time. The creature lowered its head even more until its nose was almost touching the ground. Its feathers rustled, creating a sound like wind through trees. Up close, Yuna could see that the feathers were not just silver. They had colors in them, like oil on water. Blues and purples and greens, shifting and changing as the light hit them. Yuna reached out her hand. She did not know why. It just felt like the right thing to do. Her small, dirty fingers touched the feathers. They were soft, softer than anything she had ever felt, warmer than she expected, alive. The creature made a sound. It was not a growl or a roar. It was more like a hum, deep and gentle. The sound vibrated through Yuna's body, and she felt herself relaxing. Her fear began to fade. Her sadness was still there, but it did not hurt as much anymore. She sat down on the ground, her legs too tired to hold her up. She leaned against the creature's face, pressing her cheek against those soft feathers. Tears began to fall from her eyes. Not tears of fear this time, but tears of relief. She was not alone anymore. The creature let her cry. It did not move. It did not make any sound. It just stayed there, warm and solid, letting her lean against it for as long as she needed. Time passed. Yuna did not know how much. The sun finished setting and darkness came. The fires that still burned around the village gave the only light. The sky above was filled with smoke, hiding the stars that usually shone so bright. When Yuna finally stopped crying, she looked up at the creature again. "What are you?" she asked. The answer came as another feeling, images and ideas that flowed into her mind like water into a cup. She saw ancient times before humans existed. She saw stars being born and planets forming. She saw a creature of light and feathers flying through the empty space between galaxies. She saw time passing, more time than she could understand. Dragon. The word appeared in her mind. Not a word the creature said, but a word that felt right. This was a dragon, an ancient, powerful, beautiful dragon. "Do you have a name?" Yuna asked. Another image. A sunrise over an endless ocean, light breaking through darkness, hope at the start of a new day. "Sora," Yuna said. The name felt right on her tongue. "Your name is Sora." The dragon hummed again, and Yuna felt something like approval. Yes, Sora. Yuna stood up slowly. Her legs were still weak, but she felt stronger than before. "Why are you here?" she asked. "Why did you come?" The answer was more complex this time, more images, more feelings. She saw the dragon sleeping deep underground, resting in a cave of crystal. She saw the attack on the village, the vibrations traveling down through the rock. She saw the dragon waking up, feeling the pain and fear of the dying humans. And then she saw something else. She saw herself. She saw a small flame in the middle of darkness, a tiny light that refused to go out. Hope. That was what the dragon had felt. That was why she had come. Yuna did not fully understand, but she felt the truth of it. Somehow her hope had called to this ancient creature. Her refusal to give up even when everything was lost had woken something that had been sleeping for thousands of years. "Thank you," Yuna said. "Thank you for coming." Sora lifted her head and looked around at the destroyed village. Her golden eyes reflected the fires that still burned. Yuna felt her sadness, deep and heavy like an ocean. The dragon had seen much death in her long life, but it still hurt. Every loss still mattered. "What happens now?" Yuna asked. She had nowhere to go, no family to find, no home to return to. She was alone in a world that had suddenly become very dangerous. Sora looked back at her. The dragon's great wings spread out slowly, unfolding like clouds across the sky. They were enormous, each one bigger than the largest building in the village. The feathers caught the light of the fires, glowing like stars. One wing lowered toward Yuna. It touched the ground gently, creating a space beneath it. A shelter, a safe place. The feathers were thick and warm, blocking out the cold night air and the sight of the destruction around them. "Come," the feeling said. "Rest. You are safe now." Yuna walked forward and crawled under the wing. It was like entering a tent made of the softest material in the universe. The feathers surrounded her, protecting her from everything outside. She could still hear the fires burning, but they seemed far away now, distant, unable to hurt her. She lay down on the warm ground, using the soft feathers as a bed. Her body was exhausted. Her mind was exhausted. Everything that had happened that day crashed over her like a wave, and she felt herself sinking into darkness. But it was not a scary darkness. It was the darkness of sleep, of rest, of healing. Sora was there, wrapped around her, keeping her safe. For the first time since the attack began, Yuna felt like she could breathe. "Will you stay with me?" she asked, her voice already heavy with sleep. The answer was immediate and sure. A feeling stronger than anything she had felt before. Always. Yuna smiled. It was a small smile, fragile and tired, but real. She closed her eyes and let sleep take her. Above her, Sora watched the night sky. Her ancient eyes searched for signs of the attackers, but they were gone. For now. They would be back. Creatures like that always came back. They had tasted blood, and they would want more. But when they returned, they would find something unexpected. They would find a dragon who had lived since the beginning of time. A dragon who had watched empires rise and fall, who had seen the birth and death of stars. A dragon who had decided, for the first time in thousands of years, to protect something, to protect someone. Under her wing, the small human child slept peacefully. Her breath was slow and steady. Her face relaxed for the first time in hours. She was so small, so fragile, so easy to break. But she had not broken. That was the miracle. That was what made humans special. They bent, but they did not break. They fell, but they got back up. They lost everything, but they kept hoping. Sora had lived for a very long time. She had seen many wonders, but she had never seen anything quite as wonderful as the stubbornness of a human who refused to give up. She folded her wing more tightly around the sleeping child and settled down to wait for morning. Whatever came next, they would face it together. 3 days passed. The fires died. The smoke cleared. What remained of Hanil Colony was ash and silence. Yuna stayed under Sora's wing most of the time. She slept a lot. Her body needed rest, and her mind needed time to understand what had happened. Sometimes she woke up crying, reaching for parents who would never come. Sora would send warmth and comfort through their strange connection, and eventually, Yuna would fall asleep again. During the day, Sora helped her find food. The dragon could not eat human food, but she knew where to look. She guided Yuna to gardens that had survived the fire, to stores where food was still good. Yuna ate whatever she could find: bread, fruit, water from bottles. It was not much, but it was enough. Other survivors appeared, a few at a time. They crawled out of hiding places, blinking in the sunlight, looking around at the destruction with empty eyes. An old man named Wu Jin was one of them. He had hidden in his basement when the attack started. A young woman named Nari had been in the medical center, helping patients when the first blast hit. A boy named Jiho, only a little older than Yuna, had been outside the village when everything happened. They all stared at Sora with fear at first. The dragon was enormous, bigger than anything they had ever seen, but Yuna stood in front of them and explained. "She is not here to hurt us," she said. "She came to help. She came because of me." The survivors did not fully understand, but they had no choice but to trust. The world they knew was gone. If this strange dragon wanted to help them, they would accept that help. They gathered together near the ruins of the school. Sora curled around them like a wall, her massive body creating a circle of protection. Her feathers kept them warm at night. Her presence kept them safe from the wild animals that might have come. But on the 4th day, something changed. Yuna felt it first. A cold feeling in her chest, like ice water running through her veins. She looked at Sora and saw that the dragon's eyes were fixed on the sky. Her feathers were raised, standing up like the fur of an angry cat. "What is it?" Yuna asked. The answer came as an image: dark ships against a blue sky, sharp edges, cold metal, death. They were coming back. Sora stood up quickly. Her movement shook the ground. The other survivors screamed and grabbed each other in fear. Only Yuna remained calm. She trusted Sora. She trusted that the dragon would keep them safe. "Everyone, get behind me," Yuna said. Her voice was steady, stronger than it had been before. "Stay close together." Do not run." "But the ships," Woo-jin started to say. "Sora will protect us," Yuna said. "Trust her." The old man looked at the little girl, then at the massive dragon. He did not understand what was happening. But there was something in Yuna's eyes, something new, a fire that had not been there before. He nodded and pulled the others close. The ships appeared on the horizon. There were fewer of them this time, maybe 10, maybe 20. They were not here to attack again. They were here to check their work, to make sure nothing remained, to clean up any survivors. Sora spread her wings. The sight was incredible. Her wings blocked out the sun, casting shadows over what remained of the village. The feathers glowed with inner light, silver and gold and every color in between. Power radiated from her, visible as heat waves in the air. She opened her mouth and roared. The sound was like nothing any of them had ever heard. It was not just loud. It was everything. It was the birth of stars and the death of worlds. It was the voice of something that had existed since the beginning of time. The ground shook. The air vibrated. The survivors fell to their knees, covering their ears. Even the alien ships hesitated. They stopped their approach, hanging in the air like confused insects. Then they attacked. The first blast came fast, a beam of green light aimed directly at Sora. It hit her chest with the force of 1,000 bombs. The light was blinding. The heat was intense. The survivors screamed, certain they were about to die. But when the light faded, Sora was still standing. The blast had not even moved her. Her feathers glowed brighter now, absorbing the energy like a sponge absorbing water. She had not even blinked. More blasts came, one after another. The aliens fired everything they had at the ancient dragon. Green beams, blue missiles, red explosions. The sky filled with light and noise. The ground around Sora melted from the heat, but she did not fall. She did not even step back. Yuna watched from behind the dragon's massive leg. She could feel Sora's emotions through their connection. There was no fear, no pain. There was only determination. And underneath that, something else, something that felt like pride. You see, the feeling seemed to say, "This is why I protect them. This is why they matter." Yuna did not understand at first. Then she looked at the other survivors. They were terrified, yes, but they were also watching. Their eyes were not closed in fear. They were open, seeing this impossible creature take hit after hit and not fall. They were seeing proof that they were not alone, that something in the universe cared about them, that there was hope. The aliens stopped their attack. Their ships floated in the air, weapons smoking, energy depleted. They had given everything they had, and it had done nothing. Sora roared again. This time, it was not just a sound. It was a message. It traveled through space faster than light, reaching every alien in those ships, and the message was clear. Leave, now, or I will destroy you. Yuna felt the aliens' reaction through Sora. Fear, pure, cold fear. These creatures had conquered hundreds of worlds. They had destroyed countless civilizations. They had never met anything they could not kill, until now. The ships turned, slowly at first, then faster. They flew away from the village, away from the planet, disappearing into the sky like shadows fleeing from light. They did not look back. Sora watched them go. She waited until they were completely gone, until even her ancient senses could not feel them anymore. Then she folded her wings and lowered her head. The survivors stood up slowly. They looked at each other, then at the dragon, then at the sky where the ships had been. No one spoke for a long moment. Then Woo-jin laughed. It was a strange sound, broken and disbelieving. "They ran," he said. "The monsters who destroyed our home. They ran away like scared animals." Nari was crying, but she was smiling too. "We are alive," she whispered. "We are still alive." Jiho looked at Yuna with wide eyes. "How did you know?" he asked. "How did you know she could do that?" Yuna looked at Sora. The dragon looked back at her, golden eyes filled with warmth. Through their connection, she felt the answer. Because she has been watching us, Yuna said slowly. For a long time, she has seen what we can do, what we survive, what we become. She paused, trying to find the right words. She believes in us, in humans. She thinks we are special. Special? Wu Jin asked. We are weak. We cannot even protect ourselves. No, Yuna said. We are not weak. We are small. We are fragile. But we never give up. We always keep fighting. We always keep hoping. She touched Sora's feathers gently. That is what she sees. That is why she protects us. Sora hummed softly, confirming her words. The survivors looked at the little girl and the ancient dragon. They did not fully understand. But they believed. They had seen the impossible happen. They had seen hope win against power. That night, they slept under Sora's wing again. But something was different. They were not just survivors hiding from the world. They were something else now. Something new. They were the beginning of a new story. A story of humans who refused to give up. A story of an ancient creature who saw their worth. A story of hope in the darkest times. And it was just getting started. 20 years passed. Yuna stood on the bridge of the flagship Hanil, looking out at the stars. She was not a little girl anymore. She was 28 years old, tall and strong, with black hair cut short and eyes that had seen too much and hoped for more anyway. She wore the uniform of the United Human Fleet, with 3 stars on her collar marking her rank as admiral. Behind her, the bridge was busy with activity. Officers worked at their stations, monitoring screens and sending messages. The ship hummed with power, engines ready to fire at a moment's notice. Outside the windows, thousands of other ships waited in formation. The largest fleet humanity had ever built. Admiral, a voice said, the enemy fleet has been spotted. They will reach our position in 2 hours. Yuna nodded. Good. Tell all ships to prepare for battle. The officer hesitated. Ma'am, their numbers are greater than we expected. Over 1,000 ships. Are you sure we can win? Yuna smiled. It was a small smile, but it was real. I am sure. She thought back to that day 20 years ago. The day the aliens destroyed her village. The day she lost her parents. The day she met Sora. Everything had changed after that. The survivors of Hanil Colony had been rescued by a human military ship that came to investigate the attack. They told their story about the dragon, but no one believed them at first. Then Sora appeared, rising from the ground like a mountain coming to life, and everyone believed very quickly. The news spread across human space. An ancient creature had protected humans from the aliens. A dragon from the time before time had chosen to stand with humanity. It was impossible. It was miraculous. It was exactly what humans needed to hear. The war had been going badly before Sora appeared. The aliens, called the Void by humans who did not know their real name, had been attacking for 5 years. They came from somewhere beyond the known galaxy, and they wanted everything. Every planet, every resource, every life. They did not negotiate. They did not show mercy. They simply took. Humanity had been losing. Slowly, colony by colony, they had been pushed back. The military was strong, but the Void was stronger. Their ships were faster, their weapons more powerful, their numbers endless. Many people had started to give up hope. Then Sora came. The dragon did not fight the war for them. That was not her way, but she showed humanity that they were not alone in the universe. She showed them that they mattered, that their hope, their determination, their refusal to give up meant something. And she taught them. Yuna had spent years learning from Sora. The dragon could not speak with words, but she could share knowledge, images, ideas, technology that humans had never imagined. Sora had seen civilizations far more advanced than humanity. She had watched them rise and fall. She knew their secrets. She shared those secrets with Una, and Una shared them with others. New weapons were built, new ships were designed, new strategies were developed. Within 10 years, humanity had transformed from a losing force into a real threat. The Void noticed. They sent more ships, more soldiers, more weapons, but humanity fought back. Every time they were pushed down, they got back up. Every time they lost a battle, they learned from it. Every time they seemed defeated, they found another way to win, just like Sora had always known they would. Now, 20 years after that first attack, humanity was ready to end the war. The Void had gathered their largest fleet ever, planning one final attack on Earth itself, but Una had been waiting for this moment. She had gathered every ship humanity could spare and brought them here, to this empty region of space, to meet the enemy head-on. "Admiral," another officer said, "we are receiving a transmission from the Sora." Una's heart lifted. "Put it through." The screen flickered and a face appeared. Not a human face, a dragon face. Silver feathers and golden eyes, scaled down to fit the small screen but unmistakable. "Little one," Sora's voice said. It was not a real voice, just a translation of the feelings she sent through their connection, turned into words by the ship's computer. But it sounded right. It sounded like her. "I told you not to call me that anymore," Una said, but she was smiling. "I am an admiral now." "You will always be the little one to me," Sora replied. "Are you ready for this?" Una looked out at the stars, at the thousands of ships waiting for her command, at the darkness where the enemy was approaching. She thought about her parents, about Minji, who had died running through the streets of their village, about everyone she had lost, and everyone she had found. "I am ready," she said. "Good." There was pride in Sora's voice. "I have watched many species in my long life, Una. I have seen empires that lasted 1,000,000 years. I have seen civilizations that built wonders beyond imagination. But I have never seen anyone like humans." "What do you mean?" "Other species grow strong, but they forget why they fight. They become cold, empty. They lose the fire that made them special." Sora paused. "Humans are different. You have been hurt so much. You have lost so much. But you never lose your hope. You never stop caring. Every defeat only makes you burn brighter." Una felt tears in her eyes. She blinked them away. "We learned from you." "No," Sora said. "I learned from you. When I found you in that ruined village, you were a child who had lost everything. But you looked at me, an ancient creature beyond your understanding, and you asked me for help. You did not scream. You did not run. You hoped." The screen flickered again, and Una saw Sora's full form appear. The dragon was flying through space alongside the human fleet, her enormous wings spread wide, her feathers catching the light of distant stars. She was beautiful, terrifying, wonderful. "That is why I protect humans," Sora said. "That is why I will always protect humans. Because in all my years of watching the universe, I have never found anything more precious than hope. And no one hopes like you do." The officer's voice interrupted. "Admiral, the enemy fleet is approaching. 60 minutes until contact." Una straightened her back and took a deep breath. "All ships. This is Admiral Una, of the United Human Fleet. Today we end this war. Today we show the Void what humanity is made of." She paused, looking out at the stars one more time. 20 years ago, my village was destroyed. My parents were killed. I lost everything. I was a child, alone and afraid, hiding in the ruins." She thought of Sora, of that first night under the dragon's wing, of the warmth and safety she had felt. But I was not alone for long. Someone found me. Someone protected me. Someone believed in me when I had nothing left to believe in. She turned to face her crew. "That is what we are fighting for today. not revenge, not victory. We are fighting for the people who need us, for the children hiding in ruins, waiting for someone to find them, for the hope that refuses to die, no matter how dark things get." The bridge was silent. Every officer watched their admiral with shining eyes. "We will not lose today," Yuna said, "because we cannot lose, because we are human, and humans never give up." The enemy fleet appeared on the screens. Over 1,000 ships, dark and sharp, weapons charging, ready to destroy everything in their path. The human fleet moved forward to meet them. Yuna stood at the front, watching the darkness approach, and beside her, flying through the emptiness of space, was an ancient dragon who had seen the birth of stars. Sora smiled. After all her years of watching species rise and fall, she had finally found something worth protecting, something worth believing in. The battle began. Ships fired. Weapons flashed. The universe lit up with the fury of war, and through it all, humanity fought. They bent, but they did not break. They fell, but they got back up. They faced impossible odds and found a way to win. Because that was what humans did. That was what they had always done. And that was what they would always do, as long as there was a single human left to hope. When the battle ended, the void was broken. Their fleet was destroyed, their survivors fleeing back to whatever darkness they had come from. Humanity had won. Yuna stood on her bridge, surrounded by cheering officers, and looked out at the stars. She thought of her mother and father. She thought of the little village where she had grown up. She thought of the day everything ended and the day everything began. She whispered 2 words into the silence. "Thank you." And somewhere in the stars, an ancient dragon heard her and smiled.